Welcome back. Hello, everybody. So, tonight's AEW Dynamite episode is just completed. And, so let's take a look at what happened tonight as they're setting up what should be a great show next week. Building it up to pay-per-view levels, though it will be on regular television. But we're getting a 2-hour Rampage next week, too. So, I'm getting what I asked for there, and it sounds like a loaded card. So, honestly, there's so much talent in this company, you could easily fill 4 hours of programming. I have to say, too, that I did the review of AEW Dark Elevation the other day, and I thought about doing one for AEW Dark as well, which is the next day, but a lot of it just felt like it was kind of hitting the same beats. So I didn't do a review of that. So there were 5 matches tonight, the same as last week. And they start off with Adam Cole against Frankie Kazarian. There were Adam Cole chants before the match. And so Frankie was kind of up against it, even though he's the face in this match, right? Sweet Chin music was blocked. Adam Cole doing the whole stomp in the corner and all that beforehand. But he got it the second try, and he gets a 2 count out of it. Cole would win the match with a running knee. And then afterwards, he had what he called story time. And he talked about the Super Click being back and all of that stuff. And yeah, he's very good on the microphone. He's very good at promos. And he's very good at wrestling as well. So whatever the reason was for why he left WWE and came to AEW, he's money. Like, it's just, it's great to see him out there. He seems to be enjoying himself. One thing that's interesting with tonight, there was no sign of Britt Baker. There was no sign of most of the women on the roster, really, which is weird because Dark and Dark Elevation, lots of women's matches on there. And you get to the main show and nope. So then we got an MJF promo. And I have to say, he is great at what he does. He referred to New Jersey as the armpit of America. The funny part was that I believe it was CM Punk that asked, isn't he from Long Island? Like, which is not far from New Jersey, right? And so that was great. And he honestly gets so much heat. When he said something about praying to Pillman, I was like, oh no, Pillman Sr. Then he's like, oh, who am I kidding? And he starts looking down like, no, hey, Pillman. So yeah, that definitely drew a lot of heat from the crowd. MJF is the master of that. And yeah, Pillman would run in from the crowd. What was nice was his music starts playing, and of course, MJF tells the bodyguard, you go up and deal with it. Go deal with it. Go up there and head him off on the ramp. And of course, Pillman hits the ring instead. It's an old wrestling trope, but it works. So Pillman's in there, and he would end up, carrying a chair around because with Wardlow against him. I will say this, though, the size difference between Pillman and Wardlow, while yes, Wardlow's bigger, I think I wouldn't mind seeing that match. I honestly, I think seeing more of Wardlow and Jake Hager in the ring would be a good thing. There are a lot of wrestlers in this company that we don't see in the ring very often, and I think it would be great if we did. So, yeah, JR then had a sit down with Pillman Jr., and obviously they're building him up. There was no sign of Griff Garrison tonight. There was no sign of Julia Hart. Pillman, they're clearly starting to do that build with Pillman. We'll see if that's the end of the Varsity Blondes or not. It could very well be, or it may just be until the match with MJF, and then it goes back to the Varsity Blondes, right? So then we had Dante Martin and Matt Sydal versus FTR. FTR, absolutely great tonight. The vets, and I put here too, they had the old Arn and Tully mindset. Tully, of course, being their manager. And then JR after the match said it as well, that they remind him of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. I have felt that way about FTR since they were in NXT. And so when they went up to the main roster in WWE and they were just treated like a joke, like they were, nothing. I thought that was so weird because they're just a really good throwback. That's what they are. They're a throwback to the old tag teams. I was even at a show in Vancouver where FTR just got squashed, both of them, by Braun Strowman. And I remember thinking, this is kind of weird because shouldn't they be one of the top tag teams? Like, I get it, and it's just a house show, so it doesn't matter. But Shouldn't they be getting built up? But what was fun with this match was that Dante Martin, the sky's the limit for this kid. Speed's great. And him and Seidel tried for a double pin. Both FTR members kicked out. And then FTR gets the win. So it was a good win for FTR. It was not the last time we would see them tonight. Then we get to the Suzuki Incident. And of course, this has been the discussion since last week, where Suzuki's music cut off before the fun part where the fans wanted to sing along. And so they talked about it. And they're making it part of an angle that now Minoru Suzuki is convinced that AEW is out to get him. The referee's out to get him. Everybody's out to get him. And he's got Lance Archer to decide. And Archer and Suzuki were a tag team in Japan. So this is now a thing. And they're going to team up against Mox and Eddie. I am 100% in favor of this. And of course, we would see them before the end of the night too. So yeah, Archer and Suzuki, Mox and Eddie, 4 wrestlers I really enjoy. Sadly, that means I can't hear Eddie Kingston on commentary, but we can't always have nice things, right? Then we get to a Malachi Black promo, and this is where I officially have seen everything. Rosario Dawson, now I understand, I know, she's a judge on the same show as Cody Rhodes, and Cody probably said, hey, do you want to come in and do this thing? And she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And honestly, she's kind of mildly believable. Of women celebrities who you could say, yeah, you know what? I could see her at some point actually being able to hit a wrestling move here and there. Rosario Dawson would be on the list of celebrities. I could see a move or two. And so, yeah, Malachi Black said Rosario Dawson's the enemy. She was wearing a American Nightmare t-shirt, or long sleeve shirt. And then Cody came out to make the save. But, yeah, she jumped onto the back of Aleister Black and kind of did, like, the sleeper hold. And all I could think was, if she falls down and gets hurt, it's going to be everywhere tomorrow. So, she did fall, but looked like she was fine. Not a big deal. And then that left Cody and Malachi fighting their way up the stairs, which happened a lot tonight. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of, they're called dusty finishes, a lot of dusty finishes to a lot of these segments, right? Then we get the Dark Order backstage. They talk about how Anna's fighting the Bunny on Friday. And of course, the infighting starts again, and Alex Reynolds comes in. Well, I don't think, which is weird, because Alex Reynolds coming in and giving his opinion. I agree with Evil Uno. He left. He quit the group 2 weeks ago. Why is he coming in? So, yeah. So Anna finally is like, you know what? To heck with you guys. I don't want any of you coming out to be at ringside on Friday. I'll deal with the Bunny myself. And so she takes Ty Conte with her. So I guess Ty's going to be at ringside for her. It's just leading to a tag match between them and Penelope Ford, as well as the Bunny. So that's where this is all headed, but I'm fine with it. It's fine. So I guess that was women on the show, just not in the ring, right? Then you get Dan Lambert in the ring next. Jericho interrupted, and what followed was one of the best back and forth promos ever. If you didn't see it, honestly, I recommend it. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, you might find it entertaining. The best part was CM Punk on commentary saying Dan Lambert is like if Bobby Heenan had a wardrobe full of affliction. That's where CM Punk should have dropped the microphone and said, that's my best quote tonight, guys. I'm sorry. I'm out of here. I'm done. Punk was pretty good on the commentary when he was there. And then when Jericho comes out, and of course everybody's singing his song, and he's like, no, nobody should sing that, and that's crap. They're just looking at their phones. They don't know the words, which is accurate. There are a lot of people that you notice when you look around the crowd that are just looking at their phones. You had like UFC guys in there in the ring with them, and Jake Hager's there with Jericho, and so they get into this whole thing. But yeah, it was really quite funny. So we're gonna get a match between Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky on one side, Jake Hager, and Chris Jericho on the other. And I apologize for the language, but I have to. And again, I don't normally swear on my videos, but I have to put this in here because there was a lot of swearing in tonight's show. A lot. They might want to dial that back a bit. The reason I say that is because you lose the impact when you're doing it all the time. It sort of just loses its impact and it becomes, oh, okay. So when he said, Jericho starts singing, I'm a fat-faced dipshit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. about Dan Lambert. And of course, the crowd picks up on it and they start singing it too. So don't be surprised the next time Dan Lambert is out there insulting the crowd. And his insults of the crowd are fantastic. And he's just so good. So the crowd, of course, starts singing along. We'll see if that carries over, but we're going to get that match. I think it's next Friday that they're building up to that match. So they're really going to build up Rampage. The interesting thing is last week's Rampage showed an erosion of ratings. The ratings are down on Rampage from where they were a couple weeks ago, which makes sense. You don't have CM Punk. There wasn't really any big match. If your main event is Brian Pillman Jr. against one of the members of the Acclaimed, it's probably not a show that's going to draw a lot of eyeballs. And of course, on the Canadian side, it's not on regular TSN. You got to watch it online. So there are no numbers out of Canada. So Gun Club then claimed disrespect. Talked about being undefeated. I will say this. If the Gun Club is going to start getting pushed somehow, fine. But again, when you have 5 matches on your main show, there's a limited amount of space for wrestlers to really get that airtime. So it's something they're going to have to work on. Then we had Jade Cargill versus Layla Hirsch. This was set up very nicely between AEW Dark Elevation, AEW Dark itself, on AEW Dark. Layla and Jade ended up having a confrontation. Layla Hirsch won her match with Kylan King, which was a pretty good one. And Layla's strong. She's strong. She's 4'11". Very strong. 4'11". Jade is, I think, stronger, however. And I thought this was a good test. I thought this was a good match. This is the kind of matches now Jade should have. I often refer to 80s wrestling. You would watch wrestlers come in and squash, squash, squash over and over. And then it would start with, you might end up with Iron Mike Sharp. Iron Mike Sharp was remembered as a jobber. The funny thing with Iron Mike Sharp is he wasn't. He would win matches here and there. And so when he was in the ring against somebody who was an up-and-comer, you would understand that Iron Mike Sharp was probably going to, be the one that lost the match, but you expected a good match. Whereas if it was Barry O in the ring, you're probably going to see a minute and a half and it's going to be over. Steve Lombardi, maybe 2 minutes. But Lombardi, too, at times, he was one of the higher end on the jobber side of things, right? So, yeah, I really... Yeah, I like how they're working this now. And Layla Hirsch has a good future ahead of her as well. So then we get into the kind of odd part. CM Punk, of course, is commentating, so Taz comes in and says he's taken his job, which is an excuse for all of the Taz guys to probably get involved. But where's Ricky Starks? So Hobbs attacks CM Punk. The table no-sold badly, so... I gotta say, I don't know about some of those monitors too. That all looked expensive, with the monitors being dumped off the table, and Hobbs throwing CM Punk onto the table, and yeah, it didn't break, it didn't even crack, it did nothing. It just fell over. So all I could think of was Botchamania is going to be showing that with "I am the table." That's where we're headed. But so that ended the night for CM Punk. He just basically a little bit over halfway through the show that this takes place. I don't know, again, it felt kind of predictable. I was kind of surprised that he didn't get involved in any of this. The funny thing was, when Rosario Dawson was being called out by Malachi Black, CM Punk said, man, I kind of have to defend Rosario Dawson if he goes after her, which I thought was a good thing for him to say as the face. There were a lot of times tonight that I thought, so are we not doing run-ins to make the save anymore, or is that not going to be a thing for a while? So... a good example is the next match. So we get Shawn Spears versus Darby Allin. Spears, they mentioned, gave Darby Allin his first loss in AEW in July of 2019. And that is noteworthy. I'm glad they did that callback. And it's something AEW does very well. They talk about the win-loss records. They talk about who's beaten who. And they make it seem like every match is important. So Spears taunted Sting and threw Darby around a lot. A lot of vicious shots by Spears, and then he wiped off the face paint off of Darby Allin as well, which feels right around as disrespectful as taking off a luchador's mask. I know a luchador's mask is sacred, but the face paint thing is kind of... I try to remember if I've seen that in wrestling before. It feels different, so I do like it when it's different. Darby sold a right leg injury as well. He sold it really, really well. Then he did the suicide dive. He did a coffin drop, and he gets the win. And it was kind of an out-of-nowhere thing. Spears controls 90% of the match, and then it's a couple of moves, and it's a win for Darby. So FTR comes in after. They did a spike pile driver on Sting, and then Tully wipes the face paint off on Sting. We are absolutely going to see Tully Blanchard in a ring with Sting at some point in some manner. In the old days, way back, there were times where the Four Horsemen would have J.J. Dillon actually listed as a partner. He very rarely actually got in the ring, but that's what I think is going to happen here. So, yeah, Tully did that. And then we had Tony Schiavone interviewing Bryan Danielson, and all I could think was, why didn't anybody make the save for Sting and Darby? Nobody made nobody made the save for Sting and Darby. I just thought that was weird. And then Omega came out, and he had his t-shirt in his teeth. Like, Kenny Omega seems to understand that his detractors don't like how cheesy and over the top he is, and he just leans into it, and he's so lovably cheesy. So Bryan Danielson wants an answer from Kenny Omega. Don Callis keeps giving the answer, no, you're not getting your match. Danielson's like, I don't want to talk to you. And this is where the use of foul language is getting used every 10 seconds. And again, it loses its impact if you use it every single time. And it was used a lot tonight. So I'm fine with calling out WWE on certain things. I am also fine with calling out AEW here and there. Because I think, again, if they dial it back, then it's going to have more impact when they say these things, right? As if guys are just swearing all the time, it just doesn't matter. There were some really loud yes chants, which Callis brought about. Callis brought that out when he said no. He said no, and he knew what he was doing. And there's a lot of guys in AEW that know how to play the crowd, and it works really well. And he even called Bryan Danielson a mark and said, you're like all these fans here, you're a mark. And the way that the fans reacted, nah, that's a mark. So Omega then said yes. When Bryan Danielson gets Callis out of the way, Omega is angry enough with Danielson that he accepts the challenge. So Callis didn't look happy, but we're going to get Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. I say yes to that. Miro then accepted a challenge that Fuego del Sol gave earlier in the show, which I didn't write down here. I wanted to see if it was going to get answered. So basically the way that it works is that Miro, the Redeemer as he calls himself, is willing to fight him for the belt. And Fuego has a brand new car that he's putting on the line against Miro. So right away I thought, so you're losing your car then? Got it. So I don't expect Fuego del Sol to beat Miro. Definitely not clean if he did. I really don't think Fuego del Sol is going to win that. But hey, it should be a fun match, and Miro's fun to watch, and the whole Redeemer thing I think is entertaining. So then we get the main event, which was Moxley and Eddie versus 2.0. And there's an attack before the bell. Eddie gets knocked down, so you have Moxley against both guys. The weird thing to me was Daniel Garcia is involved in this. He's wearing his trunks. He's dressed to wrestle. The referee never considered throwing him out. And I thought, wait, this is 3-on-2. I understand the bell hadn't gone yet. I got that part. But you can't. The referee immediately should say, you're out of here. Never did. And Garcia got involved during the match. I don't think he actually hit anybody, but still he's involved to the point where I've seen referees throw people out for a lot less than this. And so I thought that was weird. 2.0 then botched. It was one trying to throw the other one into the corner, and it just misfired. It didn't work. And Moxley, being the veteran, came out and dropped him. And I thought, that's perfect. There's nothing worse than when one wrestler botches a move and the other one looks at him like, right? So Mox, seeing this, just, oh, all right, I'll just knock him down. And then they played the numbers game, and of course Moxley's getting beat up a lot of the time, and then he makes the hot tag to Eddie Kingston, and it works out. Mox and Eddie get the win. Wild Thing's playing, but this is the kicker. Minoru Suzuki comes out, and they took their time. He took his time coming out. He took his time getting down to the ring. He stood up on the apron. They were waiting until the music got to the chorus, get the crowd to sing the part of the song that got cut off last week. So that deals with the Suzuki incident. And then Archer takes out Kingston. This again, The problem I have with this is it's a spot that they did last week with Sting and Darby Allin, where Spears takes out Allin and throws him around. And it was kind of that same thing with Archer taking out Kingston, attacking from behind. And then all four of them brawled all around the arena, the same way we had seen done previously in other matches. So with the brawling around the arena, do that once in a show, maybe not do that twice. Again, I've for years complained about things that I think WWE goes back to the well on too much. I have no problem with calling out AEW on the same thing. None. But it was a good show. It was enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to next week's show, where I would expect we'll see a lot more matches. And maybe we'll start seeing some advancements to some of this too. And maybe Dan Lambert's going to end up being the greatest manager in the history of professional wrestling. Maybe that's where we're headed. But, yeah, again, if there's anything I would recommend for people to go and watch, because usually AEW is good about showing it after. The Jade Cargill versus Layla Hirsch match was pretty darn good. The Malachi Black promo, which ended up with the Rosario Dawson thing, is mind-blowing. I'm sure they'll post that. And then the ending with Suzuki, Archer, Moxley, and Kingston, all four of them brawling around. It's worth a watch. So yeah, this was a fun show. And hopefully Brian Pillman Jr. gets that push. And hopefully, like, I understand MJF's going to beat him. Totally got that. MJF will beat Brian Pillman Jr. It's what happens after that. It's what they do to build him up after that. And I'm here for it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.